Experience is not what happens to a man, it's what a man does with what happens to him. Experience teaches only the teachable. Most human beings have an almost infinite capacity for taking things for granted. Slow down. Happiness is not achieved by the conscious pursuit of happiness. It is generally the byproduct of other activities. If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite. Aldous Huxley quotes. Perception and the psychology of perception while shooting a gun continued. Remember heuristics and biases. It is said that seeing is believing, but it is equally true that believing is seeing. Take a police officer for instance. If they have previously been in armed conflict, they may have more reason to think a person is armed and see something differently than reality, i.e., a cell phone looks like a pistol. Availability heuristic primes perception. People must use information stored in memory to make decisions. In a critical situation, they will most likely use the first information that comes to mind. One factor that causes quick recall is that the information was recently acquired. In general, the most recently learned information is what most readily comes to mind, i.e., is the most available and likely to have the strongest influence on decision making and interpretation of low visibility objects. If someone tells a cop to be aware of a person in the area with a gun, they might see a normal person to have a gun when they do not. Confirmation bias. Confirmation bias strengthens preconceived beliefs. Confirmation bias refers to the tendency to seek information that supports an already held belief and to avoid or dismiss evidence that contradicts it. Perhaps the most powerful cognitive bias, found to be the source of errors across a wide spectrum of human activities. If a police officer believes a person is likely to be a suspect, matches description, is located in a high crime area, acting strangely, etc., they will likely form an opinion that the person is potentially dangerous. Once this belief takes hold, the officer will look for evidence to support the belief and ignore, avoid, or rationalize evidence that contradicts it. If he sees an object in the person's hand, it could easily be interpreted as a gun. The conclusion confirms the initial belief that the suspect is dangerous. Your mind will play tricks on you. Again, perception is not clear. Remember, there are many variables that affect perception. Payoffs affect decision making. A person must decide under uncertain conditions, such as low visibility. If an officer can't pinpoint a firearm in an individual's hand, there are 4 possible outcomes. The viewer, officer, will be correct if he says, yes, when a gun is present and it really is hit, or says, no, and there really is no gun. Correct signal rejection. There are 2 kinds of errors. The officer can say, yes, when there is no gun, false alarm, or no, when there is a gun, miss. The officer must consider the payoff consequences of each response. A correct, yes, response may save a life while a correct, no, leaves situation as status quo. Of course you want to be correct, but you must also consider the consequences of an error. 2 types of possible error. A false alarm. Officer says gun when there is no gun. They could shoot an unarmed innocent person. If the officer makes a miss, does not shoot when there is a gun, people and innocent bystanders may end up hurt or shot. If expectation, availability, and confirmation affects array operating, then the sum of the mental processing is likely the officer will see a gun. Conclusion. Hindsight is 20/20. After the outcome of an event is known, it is difficult to put oneself in the place of the people who must decide on action before the event. When there is uncertainty due to poor visibility, an officer confronting a suspect has a difficult decision and must act on uncertain visual information to resolve uncertainty. They will draw on the innate cognitive process that humans have evolved to make quick decision under stress. The heuristics and biases function automatically because there is no time for conscious decision making. There is only time to react. Ultimately, the reasonableness of any behavior can only be understood by the physical constraints of the situation and by the likely operation of normal human cognition. Again, perception is not straightforward, clear, and varies from person to person. Vision and perception will vary depending on where a person is standing, what direction, whether a person is standing in shade, looking at sunlight looking into shade, an illuminated object on a shaded background. Field of view changes for two individuals standing in different spots or facing a different direction. If trees are present and two people are standing in different spots, they will each have different blind spots. Light may affect them differently. Shadows, different perception. On to the fun stuff. Did you know it is entirely possible that during the daytime you can fire a gun and yourself watch the bullet and follow it to the target? Yes, you can see your own bullet impact the target. If the target is metal, you can hear it too. What a real treat to the senses. I call it the Matrix effect, or shooting in the Matrix, because to me, it seems to have the effect of time slowing down. It is similar to a trace around at night time, but again when you can watch your own bullet, time seems to be more at play, to slow down, at least for an instance. I know when I witnessed this effect, it was definitely my most pleasurable shooting experience I can remember. To reproduce this Matrix effect, you will need the setting sun directly behind your back, an open field, cut primarily east to west, facing east, the sun being behind your back and low at an angle so much so, the shiny copper jacket of a pistol bullet, will reflect the sunlight, allowing you to see the flight of the bullet, like some Matrix shit. I'm not sure about what season is best for this effect. I'm guessing midsummer, but it is a guess. Again, with a metal target, it will be some of the most memorable shooting you may experience, a real treat to the senses. Happiness is not achieved by the conscious pursuit of happiness. It is generally the byproduct of other activities. Please stay tuned for the next part of this series. I will begin to get deeper into how understanding perception can actually help make you a better shooter. Thanks.